So this is a very common story that I hear in my business. I had a client that was a construction company. They were actually doing pretty well. They were growing, their sales were increasing every year, and they were hiring more people, to get the job done. So all that is great news, right? Well, they were still suffering in the background. They were having cash flow problems. They still were having trouble every time they had to pay payroll and payroll taxes. So I started working with them and I looked at their numbers. I could immediately see the problem is that they weren't really making enough money on each of their jobs. Sure, they were making some profit on the job, but most of it was being eaten up by the material cost and the subs and permitting and equipment rental. So it didn't leave enough money for them to cover their overhead, right? Their insurance and rent and, office supplies, all those kinds of things. So really at the end of the day, they weren't making money on the job. So the important thing is it's really easy to get your revenue, make the revenue. It's much harder keeping it. So by working with them, I thought the best course of action was to develop an action plan. And we focused on just one objective, and that was increasing their gross profit. I actually had them trying not to increase their revenue. So we ended up decreasing the number of jobs that they were working on, concentrating on the costs that they were incurring. By doing this, we were able to start showing more profit on each job. By doing this, they felt a little bit less stressed at the end of the day. They were better able to keep their hands on exactly what their costs were for materials and to focus on the people and the job that they were physically doing. So they were doing, at the end of the day, a better job with their jobs, if that makes sense. And so what started happening was they increased their profit. Of course, it's not overnight, but little by little, they started increasing their profit, and it's a trickle down to your bottom line. And they felt much better. Well, by the time the first year rolled around, they were doing very, very well. So then we said, okay, now we can start increasing your revenue, start increasing the number of jobs because we have a good foundation now. You know what you need to do. We know the gross profit that you need to make on all of your jobs. And so they could start increasing their revenue. And so they went from having losses to having profits. And by knowing exactly what they needed to do, having that action plan in place is really what's turned things around for them. So if this is something that you think could help you in your business, that's what I do in my CFO services. And the next step for you would be to pick up the phone and call and see if we're a good fit at working together.